nothing at all if you don't know who he is. I'm going to inform you a bit about who he is. I believe you're going to find it interesting, as most people do. I was introduced to who he was a couple years ago, and since then I've been really interested. Not that I like him very much, but I think everything that happened was just very interesting. And I have so many of his books and movies and stuff like that on him, so I know quite a bit about him. So today I'm going to talk to you about his childhood, crimes, and the prosecution. He was born in Cincinnati, Ohio on November 12, 1934. He's the son of Kathleen Maddox. She was 16 years old and she had Charlie. She was kind of a party girl, got into all sorts of trouble, promiscuous. So he was obviously unplanned, and unfortunately he was unwanted too. So you can imagine that he never really had much of a stable home or any sort of father figure. He got into a lot of trouble starting from a really young age, mostly here in the Indianapolis area. He started committing small crimes, stealing stuff, and eventually got a little bit more serious. When he was 13, him and a friend did 2 armed robberies, and he got a 3-year sentence at boys' school here in Indiana, but he usually escaped somehow from all of them, and he managed to escape a prison here and fled to California with a friend, and he continued to make several more crimes, which landed him in a maximum security prison in San Francisco, and he was freed from there in 1958, and I read that when he was being freed, he actually asked the guards to let him stay, because since he never really had much of a stable home, I think sadly prison became his home, and he didn't know how to live out in the real world, and he wasn't prepared, but the guards kind of kicked him out anyways. They should have let him stay. So this kind of brings me to the start of his family. He lived out in the streets of San Francisco after the Haight-Ashbury scene, so it was really left there with just drugged up hippies who liked to party and stuff, and he was introduced to drugs here, and he kind of used that as a way to manipulate people. He was known to be very good at that, and he started attracting these people. Most of them were really young girls who were trying to escape from their parents and get away from society and whatnot, and they were very weak-willed, and he kind of took advantage of that. He'd give them drugs and make them believe that he was this god and this higher power, and he could just be everything that they ever wanted, and they wouldn't ever have to suffer again. And they really believed him, and it was really sad. And it became bigger, and it was a group of guys and girls who followed him and would basically worshipped him. And he went to name this the family, and they all lived together on this ranch named Spawn Ranch, owned by a man named George, and they lived off of eating garbage, and they lived in this dirty little house that you can see right over here, and these are pictures of the family and him. This is Charlie. He's about as tall as I am, just not very big at all. This is Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Susan Atkins, and you'll see in a minute that these people right here and played a big role in all the crimes that happened with Charlie. So Charlie met Dennis Wilson, who was one of the Beatles, and not the Beatles, the Beach Boys. And through Dennis, he met Terry Melcher, who was a big music producer guy, and Charlie had these dreams of becoming a musician, even though he was kind of crazy, really sucked at it. So Terry kind of blew him off, didn't pay much mind to him, so that kind of pissed Charlie off. So uninvited, he goes to his house and is trying to look for him to talk to him about it or threaten him, I don't know. But he wasn't living there. He was renting the house to movie producer Roman Polanski and wife Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time. So Charlie shows up to the house, and Sharon Tate and a man named Wojtek Frykowski open the door, and they're kind of of scared, so they're kind of rude and they kick him off the property. And so that makes Charlie really upset. So what he does is he goes home to the ranch that night and he gathers a group of his followers and he tells them to go to this house and murder all the people in there as gruesomely as they can, and he wants them to leave a message behind. And so they did. They worshipped him. They would do anything for him. And so I won't get into the details about how they were murdered. It's really graphic. It's really horrible. I read it was about 102 stab wounds among like 4 or 5 people. But you can find that information online if you are interested in that. This is the house. It's located, well, it's changed the address now, but it was 10050 Cielo Drive in Beverly Hills. The victims were actress Sharon Tate. She was 8 months pregnant. Abigail Folgers. She was the heir to the Folgers coffee fortune. Wojtek Frykowski, Jay Sebring, and Stephen Parent. So, very briefly, Charlie had this dream of Helter Skelter, where he would create a sort of racial war between whites and blacks, in which he would frame all the murders they committed and make it look like it was like the black people who killed all these white people. So then they would rebel and try to kill each other, and in his head, him and his family would hide out in the desert while this was happening, some huge war, and they would somehow survive. And he was very racist, and he believed that black people did not have the power to rule. So then he would step in and take over. Some genius plan he had. So then Charlie destroyed so many lives, and the lives, his own life, and the life of the whole family. And they were all arrested. Most of them were let go because they weren't directly involved in the murder. But the trial went on for 9 months, making it the longest murder trial in history. Charles Manson, Patricia Krenwinkel, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, and Leslie Van Houten were each sentenced to the death penalty. But in 1972, it was abolished in the state, so they all served a life sentence. And so that's Charlie currently. That was taken in about 2009. He's in his 70s. He's in Cocoron State Prison in California. Susan Atkins died last year of a brain tumor, and the rest of them are still in prison. And this August is going to be the 41st anniversary of the murders. So I've talked to you about the life and crimes of Charles Manson. I hope you found it of interest and walk away today with more knowledge about the crazy killer.
Doesn't hurt it.
Yeah,
You can't lose that maybe.
That works.
I have an IT guy. Yeah, getting together, move data.
I've never had that issue, so I just continue to do it. If I ever do lose it, then I'll do it the right way.
It all depends. I mean, his company might want him to take it away.
Oh, definitely.
Depends on what